Good afternoon, and or maybe good morning, depending on where you are listening from here. Welcome to our third installment for the 2025 TSAMM's Angel Tree webinar series. We had two webinars last week. The first one last Tuesday talked all about campaign settings and campaign configurations and how you can set a proper foundation for your campaign moving forward. And then on Thursday, we talked all about applicant management. How do we process angels through the system? Today, we are going to talk about angel management, right? So we're going to talk specifically about how do we allocate angels? How do we create a sponsored allocation site? How do we check in and out angels? How do we look for angel duplicates across our campaign and across our division? And so this is really important here as we dive into how we manage the angels and how we get those angels adopted, if that's a part of your program, all the way through distribution. Take a minute here and familiarize yourself as you can with the GoToWebinar interface if you weren't able to join us on Tuesday or Thursday last week. Oh, forgive me, I forgot to mention, those webinars that we had last week have both been posted to our YouTube library, the TSAMM library. That link will be posted in the chat. So if you weren't able to be with us last Tuesday or Thursday, or if there's other members of your team who you think it would be beneficial for them to review, by all means, go ahead and access that video there. Additionally, as you may have seen in the past webinars, we kind of move a little quick, right? We've got a lot of information to try to cover in a short period of time. And depending on your familiarity with the system, you may or may not have additional questions. If things come up after we've finished our webinar, please go ahead and send those questions to support@tsamm.org. Again, we'll put that in the chat as well. It's where you reach out to for support throughout the entire Angel Tree season. So go ahead and send those questions there. As we walk through today, you'll have the opportunity to post questions, which most of the time I circle back to at the end of the webinar to be able to answer. We just don't really have the time for me to be able to go back and forth and talk about questions in the moment. So by all means, go ahead and post those questions there if you have them. And I think we've given enough time for additional people who are going to join to go ahead and hop on the webinar. So we're going to jump straight in and get started. We are talking today about angel management. How do we allocate angels? How do we put them online? How do we manage those components? Right? And so we're going to jump straight into our angel records page. So over here across the top we have applicants and angels. We're going to go to angel records. Now we are in a testing environment, a training environment. And so if you see any familiar names, it's purely coincidental. And let's just talk quickly about this report. It's helpful for us to touch on these because even though they are similar across all of our modules, we may forget. If you want to filter across any of the TSAMM reports, you're going to access that in the upper right corner here and click filter here. You can go ahead and filter against however you need, really. You're going to go ahead and be able to filter against intake sites or AR statuses, donors, specific names or genders, ages, member types, if they're family or special care. You really can filter against anything you want. Once you're done, let's say we wanted to only look at angels that are in the status of admin approved. I can select that, click refresh, and it will filter my list below, which currently has 40 angels down to 13 angels that are in a status of admin approved. When I want to remove that filter, I simply click remove filter here on the right, and it resets my list back to my standard inclusion of all angels. As we're looking here, you're going to see different icons on the report, and we're going to touch on those first. You're going to see different statuses. Sometimes the icons are present, sometimes they're not, and that is intentional. Because depending on the status of the angel, and that's going to be in this column here, right in the middle, you may or may not be able to perform different functions. So let's take this angel at the very top, Zane. Zane is in the status of admin approved. I would say this is the status up until you are ready to allocate the angel to an adoption site. This is really the status you're looking to get towards. As I look across this angel, I can see a few bits of information. I can see their angel number. Now, this angel number gets assigned once they're given a distribution appointment. So if I filter against the angel status of draft, but we have none here, but we're able to see, we're only going to see those angels that are in, that have an angel code. So I have the code of CW2000B. That means it's a part of the family from the Christmas warehouse, family 2000, and the B indicates that it's the second angel in this family. That this family here, CW2000B, has multiple children in it. We're going to skip these icons here for a second, just work my way across. I can see their first name, last name. Their member type speaks to how they are in the system, whether or not they're special care or they are a traditional angel. We have their gender, their age as of the end of the year, right? So this is important that we understand this. This is their age on December 31st, 2025. Their status, intake site, and distribution site, where they're allocated to and a required date if that's happened. You can see here for Zane, Zane hasn't been allocated. We can see that in one of two ways. One, this cell is blank, but also they're in a status of admin approved. If I come down here to Sasha, Sasha's in a status of allocated, and she's been allocated to Wallace Chevrolet. We can see here when the angel was printed, when the angel was created, forgive me. And then when the angel tag was last printed, I can see here that this angel, Zane, was printed this morning at 11:34. And then if there's any donor information associated with it. That's all contained on that row. If I come over here to the left, I can do a couple things. If I click this edit pencil right in the middle, this is an easy way for me to edit the requests of Zane. Let's say as you're going through and you're printing angels, you see that maybe they put in something different. They put in something that you wish that they would have altered, maybe because you allow them to open up and type in anything they want as it relates to a need or a wish. Maybe you need to go in and edit something here, whether that be for language or because they've asked something that maybe wasn't appropriate. Maybe they've asked for a vehicle or some type of housing furniture. So you can go ahead and adjust that here. Let's say we want to change this person, we need to change from clothes to blanket. I can go ahead and update that here, save my changes, and then Zane will be updated accordingly. This red X here is in the rare event that I need to remove this angel altogether. In the event I need to delete Zane from this family. This is not affecting the family as a whole, but I'm removing Zane from this family as if I went into the applicant and removed the angel there. Here I can just simply delete this angel, remove them from this campaign. Lastly, here is this icon here with it looks like a little person. If I want to view the applicant record that Zane is a part of, I click this icon. That opens in a separate tab this family record. We can see here as I scroll down that this is Zane's family. I can see it in the angel information here that Zane is there. And if I want to, that opens up in a separate tab. So if I want to go back, I simply go ahead and close my tab and I'm right back to my filter. So this is really helpful in the event that if you are in the process of looking at angels and going through them, but you maybe have a filter applied and you want to be able to maintain that icon, this little person here, is going to open that applicant in a new tab. All right, let's talk about a few other things you can do on the report before we start talking about angel allocations. You'll see here on the right, there are some check boxes. So I'm going to go ahead and select Zane, and we'll go ahead and select the first three records. And I'm going to scroll to the bottom, and you can see here I've got a few different options that I can perform. The one that you are most going to do is you're going to print angel tags. Your angel tag format is found in your campaign settings and the general settings. So if we're not going to go into that now, but you might want to refer to our webinar from last Tuesday to understand that. But when I click print angel tags, I'll get a confirmation of all the angels that I'm going to print, as well as whether or not I want to include barcodes. Now, I will say not every angel tag allows for barcodes, and this is a space requirement. So if you don't see that information there, that's simply because the tag that you've selected is not able to support barcodes. So if you have any questions about that, you can reach out to support. But this is where you would see that. I can choose to toggle that on or off as needed. So I'm going to want the barcodes there. And then I'm going to click print angel tags. At this point, it's going to simply open up, download a PDF that in my browser will open up in a separate tab. This may be something that your browser setting might automatically download that PDF. Some of those are browser differences. Mine's set to open up in a new tab, and you can see here are the 3 angels that I printed, Zane, Rowan, and Maxine. You can see here that we have different ages, different brackets that I'm going to be able to go ahead and print that angel. When I'm ready, I'll simply go ahead and send that to the printer. I've loaded my card stock, my angel stock that I've set from, that I bought from trade, and it's going to go ahead and print. And you can see here, now that we've printed those angels, the last printed date here has been updated. This is going to be helpful for you to know because you especially for those of you that maybe are looking to print angels to go on a Walmart tree, kind of a generic, publicly accessible tree, maybe at your mall. Here, this is where you're going to be able to see, have I printed these angels yet? That's where you're going to see when they were last printed. And you know if you did a run on a given day, if this angel was included. There's no limit that shows how many times I can print an angel. I can go ahead and print as many as necessary. Now, when I talk about printing angels, you'll see here at times this box has been disabled. Now, this box can be disabled because it's looking for these angels to be in specific statuses. Allocated's fine, admin approves fine. But in this case, from our training before, these 4 angels have already been marked as distributed. As such, we can't print their angel tags. They're complete. Additionally, if I scroll down, you will see here that Billy is in a status of supervisor approved. He's also not able to print his angel. Angels need to be in a fully approved angel in order for angel tags to be printed. The last thing we want to do is have an angel get printed, get circulated, get adopted that ultimately wasn't approved. And so applicants and therefore angels must be in the status of at least admin approved in order to print those options. You can see here, same thing with submitted. Any other status beyond draft that appears in this record, we disable these options so that we don't print angels incorrectly. So let's go ahead and see our other options here at the bottom. Let's grab 3 more. And if I scroll to the bottom, we've added last year the ability to print, we're referring to as sticker labels. We talked about this on Thursday from applicants, but we have that for angels as well. This allows me to print bag labels. This is a label that's designed to print on and be placed on a bag with the barcode, with different wishes and desires that gets placed on there. This is a peel and stick designed to be printed directly on to an Avery style 8168 size sample. And then you also have a Avery 5236, which prints just the name and the name, barcode, and angel code. So this is simply a smaller one. These are designed and built specifically for a location that wanted to use that, but because we designed it and built it for them, it's available to everyone. So this is an optional field for you to be able to print if you see a need to print what we're referring to as sticker labels. All right, so we've already talked about printing angel tags. Let's talk briefly here about forgotten angels. The system gives you 2 ways to handle a forgotten angel. The more generic way here is found under angels, forgotten angels. When I come here, this is simply going to be a PDF in which we are communicating to the public that exactly what this angel is. If I want to simply get a forgotten angel, ages 8 to 11, if I go to print this, it's going to look like this. That it says this is a forgotten angel, some gift suggestions for an 8 to 11-year-old look like this. In the end, these are toys that will be used to either supplement or be given to angels that weren't formally adopted in the traditional sense. This is very much a generic angel tag. Now the problem is what we've learned is sometimes donors don't like the forgotten angels in the generic sense. They want the feeling of being able to adopt a specific child. And we've created that functionality. So let me go ahead and clear this out. We'll clear out the forgotten angels. And we're going to go back. In this sense, I'm going to print the actual forgotten angels from these 3 records. In order to do so, I'll click the angels just as I did here. But here I'm going to click print forgotten angel tags. And so what it's doing, it's going to take the name, it's going to take what they've asked for, and it's going to place that on an angel tag. So in this case, Cademan, Sasha, and Scott each have asked for these different gifts, these different items. But you'll notice that in this cell here in the upper left corner, rather than saying CW2000B or some other angel code, it simply says FA for forgotten angel. So this allows you to print these forgotten angels onto a cardstock that maybe is understood by the public, but maybe isn't as readily known that this is a forgotten angel. They'll pick it up, but then when that gift gets returned, because of the angel code here being FA, you know that this was brought back as a forgotten angel. I will say forgotten angels are not able to be allocated to a sponsored angel allocation, which we'll talk about here shortly. But this is where you're going to be able to go in and set that up. And you can see here, we printed forgotten angels, but we don't have the record that these individuals were printed, right? It's not a formal printing of these records. We've simply used their data to create forgotten angels in the system. So this is all the different things you can do on your angel records report. You can do lots of different bits and bobs here as you go through. So let's talk about angel allocations. This is when we're trying to allocate angels to a specific organization. To do so, we're going to go under angel, and we refer to that location. We'll go to angel allocations. And what we're going to do is we are going to create sponsored angel allocation. So I've already created one here for Wallace Chevrolet, and we're going to open this up. And we're going to see different bits of information. We can see that Wallace Chevrolet, whose main contact there is John Smith, this is their address, various components. They have asked because they want to receive 10 angels. So let's walk down these data points here as we fill it out. We have the company group. We have all of the contact information related to that company. Let's talk about these 4 things here at the bottom. Approved drop-off sites has to do with where we can communicate this to them. These are where we specifically want Wallace Chevrolet to drop off at the core itself. So we can put in approved drop-off sites, and these gets used within the online interface, which I'll show you in a second, of where they can go to drop off angels. Often sponsored locations have you come by and pick up those gifts from them specifically, and we can do that here. Do we have a few more data points? We have the gift return method. Is Wallace Chevrolet going to drop them off at one of these different locations? Maybe they're going to bring them straight to the warehouse for us. Wouldn't that be nice if all of our sponsored allocations where we have donors bring them to us? But sometimes when they have a large volume, the Salvation Army, we're happy to go and pick that up for them, and that's the case here. Wallace Chevrolet has asked that we are going to pick up those gifts. The gift return date is when I'm going to pick up those gifts. In this case, we put it as November 15th, but we're actually going to update this date. We're going to go on December 7th. It's a Sunday. We'll go on December 8th, and we're going to go in and pick it up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So we've simply put a marker here of when we're anticipating going to pick up that location. This is going to be helpful for us. And we've put some notes here, right? We said we need to pull around the back to the loading dock when we get there. Or maybe it says you need to call John when you get there. And you can give little bits of information that we're able to go ahead and communicate and be able to store and be able to pick up those angels in an efficient manner. A few more bits down here is allowing angel online adoptions for this specific site. One thing that's pretty cool is that we have our online adoption, and the general public can go to the online adoption and be able to adopt angels, and that's great. But perhaps, especially for some of our larger partners, maybe they're adopting 100 angels, and they want to be able to gather that information and track it, and they want to have their own dedicated online adoption site just for that location. And that's the case. That's how we're looking at it here. We said Wallace Chevrolet wants to have their own online adoption to where people can go and adopt those angels. That could be used for tracking. Often that gets used for individuals that want to adopt a group of angels, but they don't necessarily have a physical location. We see this a lot with real estate agencies where they will use their sphere of influence to get angels adopted, have it be, kind of, for lack of a better term, attributed to them, but they're going to circulate the URL. They're going to circulate the website for people to go on and adopt angels from the Howard Group real estate agency. So you can go ahead and use the online adoption here. All you do is toggle that on or off. Once I do so, here's the adoption link. We can visit it as well. There's also going to be a shortcut out here that I'll show you. A few things here at the bottom is the specifics around what they're asking for. We have 3 types of angels: family, special care, and forgotten. Forgotten angels is really, it's not going to have an online adoption component, as we said, but this is where we can say this location specifically wants to adopt forgotten angels. They want to have a generic toy drive, and so we're going to give them forgotten angels. In this case, we've said Wallace Chevrolet wants to adopt 10 angels, 10 family angels. We've said, and we have to allocate this to them by September 20th. This can be a different date. We can say they've asked for them to have their, they're going to circulate this website. They're going to send this information out. And because of that, we need to have angels in there by October 1st. This is going to ebb and flow depending on your partner agencies. The last thing down here at the bottom is enforcing additional criteria. This is a way for us to be able to set additional criteria should that be necessary. I can enforce a gender criteria, at which point I can say I want all of these individuals to be female or male. If I don't want to enforce it, I can simply turn that off, as well as an age range. We see people use this when they partner with locations like Girl Scout or Boy Scout troops, where they want to adopt angels that are in their age bracket. So if it's a Girl Scout troop, they're going to ask for girls between the ages of, forgive me, I don't know the exact age, 5 and 12 or 5 and 14. They're going to ask for those specific criteria. Lastly is a key thing for those locations that are really large. And I'm going to put this in the context of North Texas, which is where I live. As you might imagine, this serves a 5-county area, and they have a distribution site in Fort Worth, and they have a distribution site in Dallas, amongst others smaller, but those are their 2 main sites. And so what they say, if this company is in Fort Worth, I only want to give them angels from the Fort Worth distribution site, right? We don't want to waste time driving angels an hour from one side of our command to the other, when I can just say only give them angels from this distribution site or this other. Again, this is going to be a bigger key component as it relates to location. You can also do this if you've configured your site to have a distribution site that's specific to different schools. Maybe we've said every child that we serve from Timber Creek Elementary, we have a partnership with them. There's 100 kids that get toys, and so we have a specific distribution site for Timber Creek Elementary, and maybe there's a Timber Creek PTA that wants to be able to adopt the angels from Timber Creek, and so we can do that through the distribution site. These are really kind of clever ways to use the tools to be able to get to an end game that you're searching for. Again, these are optional components, but the key thing here is if you want to try to understand how can I accomplish this, go ahead and let us know, and we'll give you unique ways here to be able to process through and be able to handle and address those concerns, those issues. So we're going to remove the additional criteria. We're not going to have any of that for this location. When I'm done, I'll simply click Save, and I'll be back to this location. So we're going to allocate angels to Wallace Chevrolet. This process I'm going to walk through to allocate angels to Wallace Chevrolet is the exact same that I would do for allocating angels to our online system or to any physical site. When I'm ready, I'm going to simply come over here and click these green arrows. This is the icon that says how I'm going to allocate angels. When I open this icon, it's going to open this pop-up for me to edit the allocation. So on our left, we're going to see the current state of this sponsored allocation. That they've requested 10, we've already given them 4. Their distribution locations are here, and we need to give them their angels by October 1st. So you can see here, these are the different angels. We have color-coded for your help, boy and girl. If they have a gender not specified, that will be white. You'll see the code, and then you'll see their age, 8 years old, 5 years old, 7 years old, etc. You see here, to display the family angels, select our preferred sort order from the top. So here I can come on and set, I want random angels, or maybe I want to do angel number. By doing angel number, you're serving the earlier angels first. This would be really helpful for you as you go in. In this case, we're going to randomize it. And what the system is doing is it's going to grab me enough angels for me to satisfy this requirement, right? We need 6 more angels. If I want to remove one, I simply click it, and that obviously it goes ahead and I can highlight those. If I click and drag, I can highlight all 6 of those angels. To add them, I simply click Add to Allocation, and the system is going to take all of those angels. It's going to allocate them to Wallace Chevrolet, the sponsored allocation, and then it's also going to update that angel status to be allocated. So as you can see here, I've got 10 angels, and I do the exact same thing if I want to remove them. If I want to come in here and remove these 2 angels, I can simply highlight those and click Remove from Allocation. So at this point, this allocation is full. I've given them all 10 angels that they were asking for. And I've got 2 more icons here on the right. The first here is a little notebook. This is an angel report that tells me exactly, it brings me to my angel records with that allocation site already applied. So I can see here, here's the 10 angels that I want to circulate, that I want to send out to Wallace Chevrolet. I can simply remove my filter. I'm going to go back to this angel allocations one more time because I want to show you the online interface. The same way, this last icon here for me to visit that public angel tree site, it's going to bring me here to, you can see here, it's the Tyler County angel tree adoption, but it's specifically the Wallace Chevrolet adoption site. As I come down here, I am now in the system as a donor. Right? Imagine that Wallace Chevrolet has sent me this website for me to go on and adopt an angel from their, for lack of a better term, virtual angel tree site. So I'm going to come on as a donor, and I'm going to find some angels, right? I can say I want either male or female, and that's the default option, or I can say maybe I've got 3 boys. Maybe I want to say I only want to adopt boys, and then I can come here and I can set my age ranges should that be necessary. So I'm going to say I don't care about the ages, but I only want to adopt boys. I want to take my 3 sons to the store to go shopping, and so I'm going to only want to return the male values. When I'm done, I'll click continue, and at this point it's going to give me the different options. Here are the angels that are potential for me to adopt as a donor. And so I can sit there with my children at my computer, on my phone, on my tablet, and say, okay, what do you guys think about a 9-year-old? They like the Dallas Cowboys. Well, I'm a Bears fan, so we're going to move past that. That's a joke there. I know I'm in Dallas country. But I come through, and we can go ahead and select the specific angels that I want to adopt. In this case, maybe I want to adopt Cademan, and I want to adopt Scott. Now, up here at the top, in the explanation, right on this line here, it says, please limit your adoptions to 3 at a time. This number 3 is dictated in your campaign settings in your online tab. We talked about that last Tuesday, but if you have any questions about that, go on there and let us know. What we want to prevent is someone going on and adopting 20 angels simply because they want to be able to, but they simply can't. They can always come back in, but in one sitting, this campaign, I said you can adopt up to 3 angels at a given time, but that number is ultimately up to you. So if I'm the donor, I select those angels, I come down and click continue, and then I'm just going to enter in my donor information. So I'll enter in my name, my address, Dallas, Texas, my zip code, uh, my, my email address here, phone number. I'll click submit. At this point, it is processing and it's going to, I've adopted my angels and I have the ability to print these angels here so that I can keep them locally. You may recall where we identified specific drop-off sites that someone can go to drop off. And if we wanted to be that specific for this location, we can click this option here to find available gift drop-off locations for me, as it brings me around and be able to find those locations. In this case, here are the 4 locations that are available for me to drop angels at. If I've specified that they can only bring them to the Christmas warehouse, this would be the only option that would be displayed to them. So this is the online adoption. So it's going to be the exact same whether it's through a sponsored allocation or through individuals of the general public. But this is going to be the exact same process. Similarly, all right, so let me jump back here to my angel records. I'm doing good on time, so we're gonna have a good bit. Make sure you're putting those questions in there. My team is identifying those that I need to kind of answer live, so I'll circle back to those. But as I come down here, I want to show you a few things that have now been updated. You recall that Cademan and Scott have been adopted by Jeff Marquis. I can go ahead and click this icon here, and it brings me to the donor information, right? And how many angels I adopted. This is a donor records report that often gets overlooked. The idea of donor acquisition is a thing that your development department like yearns for. And oftentimes we get to the end of the angel tree season, you've got loads and loads of donors that we could potentially transition from an angel tree donor to an actual fiscal donor. Let's go ahead and take this information, get it over to our CRD department, and begin to develop those donors and hopefully transition them into fiscal giving. Just an easy way for us to be able to see that donor criteria. But you may say, well, Jeff, that's great, but we don't do online adoption. We only do in-person adoption. Maybe you live in a community where, like you were in my last appointment, where your women's auxiliary sets up at the mall and they go through and they are checking angels in and out the whole time. Well, that's great because we have a check-in, check-out process. And that is, I'm going to find that under angels to where it says launch angel check-in/out. When you do so, it's going to open up a screen that looks like this. So let's go ahead and check out an angel. So if I'm sitting at the mall, if I'm sitting there as a women's auxiliary member, this website here is able to be accessed outside of being authenticated against TSAMM, right? So you don't have to be a TSAMM user to be able to use the check-in, check-out feature. It simply is available to the general public. When I come on here, I'll select where I'm at. I'm at the North Park Mall. Where do I want, in talking with the angels, where are they going to drop them off? In this case, it's just the Christmas warehouse. And I'm going to type in my code. So we'll say it was CW2000B. I'm going to click tab. And that's going to add the angel here. And I'm going to go through, and I can also be using the scanner that we're going to talk a lot about on Thursday for the distribution management. And I'm going to go ahead and I can scan the angel right there, or I can type it in manually. But what happens here is I'm going to add however many angels they've physically pulled off the tree. They've taken these 3 angels, they've given them to you, rather than writing them in a book to where you kind of keep track of who picked up these angels, because there's going to be a really cool thing with donors I'm going to show you here in just a few minutes, to where I can go ahead and capture that donor's information, right? This was adopted by Susan Smith, and it's smith@email.com, right? And I can enter in all this information, but the only thing I'm required to have is an email address. I can fill out, and when I'm ready, I'll go ahead and click initial submit, and it's going to give me a summary of these angels. Now I can see they're trying to adopt Zane, so that's a way for me to confirm that I typed in the right numbers if you're not using a barcode scanner. It's also able to you'll be able to see the status. Now, is allocated the correct status? Maybe you specifically allocated these angels to the North Park Mall to be physically adopted. That's really kind of up to you. But this is where I'm done. When I'm finally done, I click submit. It's going to go through and process these angels. And when I'm done, I simply go back to check out more angels. And when I come back, I'm right ready to check out the next angels. Now let's come back to our angel records page. Let me refresh the data. And you'll see that Zane has been adopted by Susan Smith. Right, so we're able to build out our donor data and be able to handle that. We would do the same thing for someone who is adopted. So let's go ahead and check in family angel 2004A. I'm going to go back to the same interface. Now I'm going to go back home because instead of checking out angels, I'm going to be checking in angels. So I'm going to check in my angel tags. I'm going to enter in the angel I checked in, click submit. I'll confirm that it is indeed Cademan that I want to check in. I'll click submit. And so now I'm ready to check in more angels. But again, let's hop back to our angel records page. Click refresh to update the data. And now what we're going to see is that Cademan, his angel has gone from allocated to fulfilled, right? That angel's been dropped off. This automatically happens with the distribution management. This is what I would say the previous version. We've kind of taken this and put it on steroids with our distribution management toolkit. Just a little plug for this coming Thursday's webinar, but by all means go ahead and you can use that feature there to check in or out angels. But really, that's kind of the entire life cycle of this angel, because once they're fulfilled, the next step isn't angel related, but applicant related. That's where we're going to either update the applicant to be distributed or not delivered, depending on if they actually came and picked up their gifts. Let's take a quick moment. Since we were talking a lot about donors, I want to come in and I want to send a communication to my donors. Now, this does require administrative access, so if this is those individuals with the can manage angel tree permission, but under admin, there's a send communications tool. And when I'm ready, I'm going to send communications to my donors. So I'm going to select donors. I'm going to say, who do I want to send donors to? Maybe I want to send a message just to unfulfilled donors. These are donors that have an unfulfilled adoptions. So in this case, that would be Susan. Susan adopted the angel, but hasn't dropped it off yet. And so I can send a mass email to this individual to say, just a reminder, gifts need to be returned this Friday. I can also send to fulfilled donors. Perhaps at the end of the season or just kind of periodically, you want to send a thank you. You want to let all the donors know that thank you so much for what you've done for our community. And you only want to target those donors that have overtly returned their angels, and we know that within the system. Now, I will add a warning here because this is based off of what's in the system, maybe not what's in reality. What I mean by this is a donor may have brought back a bag that hasn't been checked in yet. And just because if it hasn't been checked in the system, they're going to be deemed to be unfulfilled. So if you do send a reminder email as it relates to unfulfilled donors, you'll definitely want to include language along the lines of, you may have already returned your angels, and if so, thank you very much. But if you're still shopping, make sure you return it by Friday. Things like that. You want to be able to communicate really easily to our donors. You can see there's other communications here that we touched on previously, but this is a really cool way from a donor perspective to engage with them. We've seen locations that have taken this donor and at the very end of the season just sent a mini recamp to them. Say, thank you so much for helping us serve 1,827 angels in our community. And because of your generosity, kids are going to be waking up with a smiling face. And you can work on much better language than I just used, but you can go ahead and use this as a really easy way to communicate to donors a thank you, an update, a procedural change. When you come, we had a flood over here, so please return angels over here, right? Unfortunately, that sometimes happens. So here is a really easy way for us to update those communications. It's 1:40. The last bit we're going to talk about as it relates to angels is unfortunately probably the most negative side of our walkthrough today, and that is looking at angel duplicates. This is a feature that rolled out for the first time, I think it was 2 years ago. And this is unfortunately trying to find those individuals, whether they overtly are looking to be nefarious, or maybe you've got grandma that's trying to be helpful as well as mom, and as a result, you got the same kids showing up. So what we've done is we've given a system for you to be able to search for duplicates in your campaign, in select campaigns, and across your entire division should that be necessary. Now, as a word of caution, right? There's only so many combinations in the world, right? And so the broader your reach, it'll give you every option. If you look across the entire Southern Territory and you've got a kid named John Smith, you're probably going to get many options, right? Or if you adjust the comparison criteria. So the very first thing you need to do is you need to set your report settings. Basically what I'm saying is, what do I want to filter against? Do I want to look against a combination of 4 data points: first name, last name, gender, date of birth. We don't capture unique identifiers like social security numbers and things like that. So we're looking, the best thing we can do is give you an educated guess on if someone might be a duplicate, right? So you want to be careful to search against maybe first name, last name, gender, because if you're like one of our friends here at DPI, Eduardo Rodriguez, you're probably going to get a lot of Eduardo Rodriguez's in across a command, right? Because it's a common name. Ideally, we want to search for the most part against all 4 data points. That's going to limit your work as much as possible. All that being said, you get to set how you're going to compare. You're also then going to set what campaigns do I want to set against. And this is looking at only Angel Tree campaigns in this current year, right? So in this testing environment, we don't have tons set up. So in this case, we're going to look at just the Tyler, our own local campaign. And when I'm ready, I'm going to click continue. And it's going to go through all of the angels and bring back the potentials. In this case, it brought back 2 duplicates, or 2 potential duplicates. We have Julian Hammett, who is a male born on July 1st, 2020, and Callie Peters, a female born on February 3rd, 2023. What happens at this point is kind of up to you. You need to determine at this point, is this person being nefarious, or is this person simply something else happening? And how you derive that is kind of going to be up to you. When you're ready, you can click action. So let's take a look at Julian Hammett. And what it's going to do is it's going to give me little bits of information. I can see here that there's who the Julian Hammets are, right? I can see their age. I can see the names. If I click these at the top, it opens in a new tab that specific applicant record, right? So I can even open up those 2 applicant records and then go side by side looking to see, are these individuals the same address? Are these individuals not the same address? Do I need to call them and say, hey, do you guys know each other, right? We've seen instances, unfortunately, where people are trying to be nefarious, in which you see the same name with maybe a first name, last name, and then a middle name, last name at the same address with different emails. Remember, that's how they access the system, signing up their kids. They're simply trying to put their kids on the name twice, and they'll go through and be able to get duplicate gifts. At this point, you can see we have 6 options as it relates to these individuals. We can say that indeed Julian Hammett, there are 2 Julian Hammets in the Tyler County area, born on the same date. If that's the case, I would select non-duplicate. We would flag in the system that these have been identified as not being a duplicate. Additionally, I can remove either at the applicant from this family or the applicant from this individual. I can look up here and I can see those numbers, right? 4726, 4725. And then if I select this option here, I'm not doing anything to the greater family, but I'm simply removing this angel from them. It's as if I went into that family applicant here, went down to angels, and then manually removed that angel from this accordion. I'm not removing Lisa, I'm just deleting Julian. That's if I select these top 2 here. My next 2 options is to overtly decline one of the 2 applicants. In this case, we determined that there was nefarious actions and Darius signed up knowing full well that Liberty had already signed up the Angels and they were just trying to sign up twice. Well, if that's the case, I'm just going to go ahead and delete applicant 4726, and it would decline them, send them a notification, let them know it's being declined as a duplicate, and they're fine. You also have the option to simply, I'm going to decline everybody, right? It is obvious you are trying to beat the system. As such, your angels have been removed from the system altogether. So in this case, let's go ahead and just remove Julian from one of the applicants. So I'll go ahead and click next. Here it will ask me for a reason. I would say this angel was already signed up on another applicant. I'll go ahead and put this information there. I can put as much information here as necessary. This information is going to be logged in the history and comments of the application, but it won't be communicated to the applicant. Because remember, we're not changing the applicant status. We're simply updating that angel. I'll click proceed. When I'm ready, you can see that angel has been removed from this list, right? So hopefully, as you're working through this, you want to get this list to be 0. You want it to be nulled out. If at any point you want to see the decisions that have already been made, in my filter, there's an option to include duplicates where decisions been made. I'll refresh, and you can see here there's actually 2 families that we've already determined. If I want to see what the comments were, I can click on this little question mark here, at which point I can say, we decided to remove the angel from the application, and here's the comment that we added. Now, let's say we want to broaden our search and look across the entire Texas division, or just even other campaigns. To reset my report settings, I click this settings here in this upper section. Here, I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to include the Texas division as a whole. So now I'm looking across every campaign in the Texas division to see if there are any duplicates. I'm going to click continue, and you can see here that we've got 3 new records, right? We've got Todd Anthony, Jay Jones, and Joy Jones. We can see that all 3 of these are from the Abilene core angel tree. Now, your process here is going to be pretty much the same with one significant change. You might be hard to see on your screen, but you can see here all of the angels that are from the Abilene core, their text is not clickable, right? I don't have permissions to see the applicant record for this individual. Additionally, if I go into the action here, we've disabled all components as it relates to this Dale Douglas from the Abilene core. So again, what you do with this information at this point is up to you. You can call the core officer to see if this is indeed valid. You can let it be. You have the authority to make decisions. I can remove Todd Anthony from my application, but I can't remove it from theirs. If I make that decision and then the core officer or the angel tree administrator goes into the system, Todd Anthony will no longer show, right? Because that duplicate has been satisfied. We have removed them. How you manage that is really up to you. But you can see here, I'm going to go through there. I'm going to be able to go through and update those angel duplicates there. And if I go back to my angel records just one last time before I jump into your questions, I'm able to see all the angels that were removed because they were a duplicate. I go under angel statuses. I'm going to look at declined angel duplicate, and I can see a report of all of the angels, in this case, Shasha and Julian, that have been declined, removed from the system because they were marked as being a duplicate angel in the system. This is an unfortunate need, but this is the world we live in. But the reality is this helps us serve more families. Again, I'll lean on North Texas. When we first rolled this out there, we had almost 500 additional angels that they were able to serve because 500 times angels were in their duplicates, whether that be intentional or not, but they were able to remove the duplicate angels to the tune of 500 angels, thus being able to serve 200 additional angels. So that is angel processing. Again, we're gonna answer some questions that you guys have been posting. We'll go through that and be able to give some instructions. Again, if we close this out and you haven't had a chance to ask your question, or if a question comes up, reach out to support. These webinars will be made available in the coming days for you to cycle back to and be able to answer questions. But this has truly been a privilege for us to be able to be with you. So we're going to go ahead and jump in and walk through some questions. All right. So Alma asks the questions, what if I have two forgotten angels with the same first name? Well, the truth is, if it's a forgotten angel, we don't really care, right? Because a forgotten angel's gifts, when they get returned, are not tied to any child, right? When I generate, let me go ahead and remove this filter to get back to my full list. When I go to print, if I go to print Rowan as a forgotten angel, it's not that Rowan has the potential to get two angels. It's not forgotten in the sense where we know he's been forgotten, but we're sending it out a second time. Because if that's the case, I can just print a regular angel tag. But the reason we're printing this here with the first names is to give some of the better feelings, to give specific gifts. But when the forgotten angel gifts get returned, the intention is that will go into a communal table that will be used to fulfill any angel, whether that be Rowan or other angels. From my experience, we would try to say we want to give every kid one large toy, a small toy, and a t-shirt or an outfit. That was kind of the goal. And so sometimes those bags would come back and they would be fully complete. Sometimes it comes back and you've got just a small toy and an outfit. And so we're able to use these forgotten angel toys, maybe toys that you purchased, to be able to supplement that bags. Also, you're getting to Friday, distribution starts on Monday, and you've got these 10 angels that were just never returned. We can go through and fulfill those bags as we go through. Hopefully that gives some context there. Kathleen has asked us to specify angels. Can you specify specific angels and their families to online adoption? For instance, we know that one business only wants to adopt angels from one specific school that has referred family to us. So in order to accomplish this, Kathleen, you're going to have to be, I wouldn't say creative, you're going to have to use your distribution site as a method for this. So what I would say is that if you are working with angels, let me take a step back. We need to be able to filter against a data point to be able to allocate these angels over. So I can do that in a couple different ways. If I know the names, I can search them and I can actually update the allocation from this page. If I come in here and I know I have Rowan and Brian and these angels here, I can come down here to update my allocation and give them directly to a sponsored allocation, right? I can give it directly to the North Park Mall as an allocation. I can go ahead and allocate those accordingly. But in the end, I have to have a way to filter, right? So that might be, all of the angel codes for this school are in a certain range. What I would suggest is for you to create a question. Okay, if you don't use invitation codes and thus you can't tie them to that school, I would put a question on the angels, custom questions where they enter in their elementary school from a drop down. So you have to get the elementary school in question. They'll select the elementary schools. You'll be sure to make it doesn't show on the angel tag. If you don't remember that, that's from Tuesday, or send an email to support. And then that gives me the angels that I need from this location. And then I can go ahead and select those angels and allocate them specifically to that organization. Or I can go in and make sure the distribution appointment for those angels in question are tied to the Timber Creek Elementary distribution site, even though it has the same physical location, right? This was all kind of covered on Tuesday, but you're going to go ahead and give those the same physical location, but I can clarify a grouping as it relates to a specific school, etc. Hope that answers your questions. All right. Oh, I think there was a follow-up there to Kathleen's question. I might need you to clarify there. Patty asks, is allocated and adopted essentially the same? It is not. So allocated means that I've given the angels to a company. I've said Wallace Chevrolet has these 10 angels. Adopted means that a donor has gone in and said these angels have been adopted. So it gets into an adopted status when someone has gone to the online interface and selected Cademan or Jimmy or Sierra, it's going to update that angels from allocated to adopted. And so if we look right here at the top, Zane has been adopted. Zane, we know that there's a donor in our community that basically has said, I'm going to buy gifts for Zane. For Rowan, that's not the case. We know that Rowan's been assigned to North Park Mall, but no one's selected his name yet. This helps to give you some idea in terms of whether or not someone has actually selected that child to be processed. All right. All right. Akia says, Jeff was able to set pickup parameters for Wallace Chevrolet. If we set up multiple sponsors on this page and allocations to them, is there a report in TSAMM that will allow me to print out a master list of sponsors, including pickup schedules and instructions? The answer is yes. So we're going to go into my reports section, and we're going to go into my sponsored allocation report. It's the bottom option under my single campaign report. I'm going to choose my campaign. In this case, I'm going to look at my current year because I can look at previous years. I'm going to generate that sponsored allocation report. Oh, forgive me. And it would come through. I think I grabbed the wrong campaign here. So I'm able to go in and you would generate that report. Additionally, from my sponsored angel, I can look on my sponsored angel allocation report here, and I can export this to Excel here as well. My report from the report section gives me a little bit of additional information like the contact information and those information. I can export this here to prove as a master list. I also can run my my reports here and my campaigns looking at previous campaigns. If I go to 2024, go ahead and generate that information. You can see here Smithville Chevrolet. This is what that report looks like, right? I can go in at the contact. The notes for pickup would appear over here. In this case, there were no notes, but I can go ahead and print that. That gives me the contact name, address, email, phone, and all the information that's in question. So that's where I would go to print that report. Let's go ahead and work through a few more questions. We're coming up close to the end. If you have to hop off, by all means, these questions will also be available as a part of our webinar. Wendy says, at times I will have a group that took 30 and 10 were not adopted. Is there an easy way to unallocate those 10 and reallocate them to another location? Absolutely. I could go ahead and filter on a couple bits of criteria. Let me go back to my angel records. We'll pick on Wallace Chevrolet. I think that actually is a physical location somewhere. And I'm going to look at my distribution, not my distribution site, forgive me, the allocation. We're going to look at Wallace Chevrolet and those angels that are in a status of allocated. When I set those two settings, what I'm going to see is that I've allocated 10 angels to Wallace Chevrolet. In this case, there's 6 that have gone unadopted. I can select all of them. I can update the allocation and I can say, Wallace, you've dropped the ball. We're taking them from Wallace and we're giving them to North Park. Once I go ahead and submit those and update it, that'll be reset now that it's removed. But let me go back to my angel records because our filter was set against Wallace Chevrolet. And all of those angels that were previously tied to Wallace Chevrolet that were unadopted have now been updated to North Park. If I want to simply just remove those angels, I can update the allocation to be removed from allocation, and I can do the same thing. I can also do this from my sponsor allocation in this section here, right? When I go back to angel allocations, go into this section here, click the green arrows. I can go ahead and select angels to remove from North Park Mall, right? I can do that, but there's just a faster way from our angel records report. Hopefully, Wendy, that makes sense. If you need any follow-ups, go ahead and put that in the thread or go ahead and send it to support. We're getting close to the end of the line for questions. All right. All right. Denivia Hudson asks, how do you print off applicants in the time ordered? So I'm assuming like based on like the time created, maybe the time submitted, like there's a couple ways to be able to do that.
Hey, Jeff, I think she was looking for the order in which they're going to be picked up.
In the order in which they're, okay, so it's, okay. So if we're looking at in the order in which they're going to be picked up. I'm That's not one of the options at this point. Um, the problem is it's going to allocate the angel numbers in the order that I select them. All right, so I can fill all of these columns are sortable. So in this case, I want to put them in numeric order by angel, and then I can go down the line and print those angels off. That will print angels in the order in which I could say they were approved. That maybe is a little bit misleading. It's the order in which they were given a distribution appointment. So that should lend itself to the order in which they signed up. I can print it based on the created date, based on when they started the update. And so those are really the two ways where we can order and print them in that order. I can say most locations use the angel number, but I will say if you gave someone an angel on Thursday, a pickup appointment on Thursday, and then came back to Monday, those numbers are going to move up incrementally, even though it might not be based on their pickup time. Right now, there's not any way to be able to print angels based on their distribution appointment time. All right, let me see if there's any other questions here. I think there's a few more companies. All right, so there's one other question here. Kathleen, you said if we use invitation codes for partnering agencies to refer families, how do I put those? How do I put all those families into an online adoption? So you're going to want to be able to go through and process those applicants, and what you're going to do is you're going to want to use a different distribution appointment. The best way to be able to have be able to bulk assign angels to a given location is going to be able to give them distribution appointments. I referenced this last Tuesday. I referenced this with Phoenix. They have one distribution physical site, but they have a distribution site on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and Thursday. You can set up multiple distribution sites at the same physical location. But you're going to go ahead and be able to, that's how you're going to be able to dictate that. And then when you go into enforce additional criteria, it will go ahead and you can select from a specific distribution appointment, like the online, like an elementary school, like a partner agency, things along those lines. I believe I've answered all the questions. It's been a pleasure being with you. So go ahead and if I didn't answer your question or if anything comes up, reach out to support. These webinars will be available in short order. I look forward to seeing you on Thursday for distribution management, and then next week, new features overview on Tuesday, followed by community services by WellSky on Thursday. Thank you guys. Have a blessed rest of your day, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you.